Well, I wanted to hurt the guy. I seriously wanted to hurt him really bad. Most of my viewers will know I used to be a very violent person. I worked the doors for many years. Sometimes I'd collect money for people, not in a very nice way, you know, using intimidation. My whole life was violence and intimidation. After having gone vegan, I had what I would term a spiritual awakening. I realised that we're not actually this ego, which is a construct that we create. And generally, I think people use the word ego, they could equally use the word insecurity. So it's out of fear, you know, we construct this persona, you know, so that we feel safe. Since this life-changing revelation, I hadn't laid my hands on anyone. I think it's been like at least 4 or 5 years now actually. I was always trying to kind of change. I knew that it wasn't right to be aggressive and violent. And I thought to myself, I hope I never have to lay my hands on someone again. And I thought if I did, that I would feel terrible about it. Recently, someone really made me so angry, and I did lay my hands on them. I guess I need to tell you the backstory. So we've got a big group of friends. There's this one guy, and he thrives on negativity. He loves to create discord, disharmony. He likes to create arguments. I don't know the guy very well. He's a real loner. I think like perhaps he may be unwell, or he's been through like a terrible time in his life, or a bit of both. I mean, I'm no psychologist, I'm no doctor. I mean, I shouldn't speculate really, but he doesn't seem to act like most people. He doesn't seem to know when he's upsetting people. He does intimidate a lot of people by being very in their face, very staring. The first time I met the guy, he came up to me at a vegan event, and he introduced himself, and pretty much the first words out of his mouth was, "What do you think of climate change? You know, all these lies about climate change, it makes vegans look bad if we don't get all our facts right." And you know, most vegans do believe in climate change, so I could see straight off the bat, you know, that there was something, I don't want to use unkind words, but it didn't seem normal to me, if there's such a thing as normal. Obviously these are all perspectives, so my perspective might be totally wrong. But anyway, he didn't seem quite right, and other people in the group, they've complained. A lot of the females have been very scared of him, and in fact, he kind of attacked Gemma one day. So she told me he came over and he was telling her, "Oh, you should watch this video about that woman you promote, Teal Swan." So Gemma's into this spiritual guru. She's had a lot of great successes in undoing past trauma. It's called the completion process, and just stuff you've learned in the past is holding you back in, you know, your adult life. You can undo it. You can go back, and you can make your life so much better, so much happier. You know, you can really function like properly. So she's done this technique on herself, worked really well. She's helped a few friends, and they're all really grateful. You know, it's like a new lease of life. You just undo all this negative programming. But this guy happened to see a video talking about this woman, Teal Swan, and this particular guy in the video, he says that she lies about her past. You know, she says she had a really terrible time of it as a child, and he's saying, "Oh, you should watch that video." And Gemma's saying the same as myself, "Oh, I don't like to look at negativity, like, you know, it's not for me." And he's saying, "Well, if you're promoting her, you need to know like what she's like. Like, I've heard that she's evil, I've heard that she's bad." And Gemma's saying, no thank you, like, I don't want to really hear about that. I'm just going to do the positive stuff and, You know, she's not recommending her as a person, she's just recommending this particular technique. And in the end, she said the guy got really aggressive and in her face and saying, like, you must watch it, like, you know, he's just really calling her out. And, you know, and what does this guy know? He's just seen a video, you know, on the internet, like, what's it got to do with him? I should have had a point of view with him, really, but my thoughts were, I don't want to create disharmony in the group. These events where he'd turn up, like, she'd always be with me. I said, like, you know, I'll look after you, and we decided not to say anything. But this particular day, he turned up, and so Gemma came and got me to stand with her because she was worried. And he came over, and she felt so intimidated by the guy that she kind of ran off. So I suppose I was already, you know, thinking badly of him. And then he came up to me, and he's very clever. You know, he opens with like some kind words. So he said, oh, I've really been enjoying your channel lately. And so my sort of guard came down a little bit. I thought, oh, maybe it's not as bad as we think. Oh, except for this one video you've done about the Holocaust. And, you know, I've heard that that's not true, and I've been watching all these videos. He's really into all these conspiracy videos. And I'm saying, well, you know, fair enough, but, you know, I'd rather not talk about it. I'm not really sort of fussed. Like, if you've not seen that video, my dad actually was present for the Holocaust, and he's seen, you know, terrible things. And so this guy's telling me, oh, well, what did your dad see? And I said to him, you know, look, I know that it was true. I don't want to discuss it. He didn't like to dwell on negative things. I don't like to dwell on negative things. But he kept pushing and asking me, you know, what exactly did he see? And I'm saying, I don't want to talk about it. He said, oh, you must ask him, you must. And I'm saying, well, my father's dead, like, you know. Instead of saying, oh, sorry, like, sorry to hear that, you know, he just kept pressing and pressing, probing me. And I'm saying, I don't want to talk about it. Eventually, I really flipped. People say about seeing red, or the red mist, they say. And actually, there is a mist. I recognised, like, everything went really grainy. For a second it felt alien, and then I recognised it was actually really familiar. I just hadn't felt it in years. And it's a fight or flight syndrome. So blood's going from my head into my limbs for fight or flight. Except because of my kind of background, I suppose, where Gemma kind of says, she coined this, she has flight or flight, she'll just run away. Whereas with me, it's kind of fight or fight. Like, I don't know, I just stand my ground, and I don't think of running away. I just want to protect myself. I want to, like, stand up for myself. And so yeah, everything, it was like a mist. It was like a fog. Everything went really grainy, and I thought, oh, hello, old friend, like, here we go. And it was too late for me to then respond. What I should have said is, you know, I'm not going to talk to you anymore if you're going to continue in this way. This is not socially acceptable to question someone when they don't want to talk. But instead I just snapped. I had to, well, I wanted to hurt the guy. I seriously wanted to hurt him really bad. But I just thought, right, sort of damage limitation. So I just grabbed him and I threw him out of the building where we were. I just had to get him away from me, or I would have hit him. And I shouted at him, you know, and he was scared, and he kind of ran off. And I thought at that point that I would feel terrible, but actually I felt really good about it. I thought, well, you know, he's been unkind to lots of people in the group. I've had a few people have complained about him to me since, you know, because this has all come out. Obviously he's upset Gemma, and ordinarily, you know, in my past, if someone was like that to Gemma, I would have hurt them there and then, like, really badly. This is just me being honest. And but, you know, I'm trying to change. But yeah, I didn't feel bad. At the time I felt justified to hit him, which is why I'm kind of making this video. I felt justified, and it's lucky that I didn't hit him. But now that I've calmed down and thought about it and talked to friends, you know, I always said, like, I hoped I wouldn't have to hit someone ever again. And I thought, yeah, I didn't have to like hit him. I didn't have to hurt him. It was my ego. So Gemma's pointed out to me, which I didn't really realise, that I seem to have a bit of a problem with people being disrespectful to me still. I thought I'd got rid of all this kind of ego stuff, or as far as you can. And when I'm on the internet and people are typing like attacking things, you know, I just think, oh, you poor thing, like, you know, they're trying to cause me suffering. And I think, well, you're probably suffering, you're suffering spilling over, so I don't mind. I really couldn't give two hoots, you know. They feel safe behind their keyboard, you know, they're keyboard warriors, faceless, nameless. Like, it doesn't bother me in the least. And I kind of thought that maybe I'd be like that face to face nowadays. But apparently I can only take so much. And I suppose we can all only take so much. So yeah, unless someone's an immediate threat and they're going to hurt you or your loved ones, you know, if it's you or them, you know, and they created that situation, it should always be them. Better to be judged by 12 than carried by 6 was the phrase that I always keep in mind. But, you know, I didn't need to hurt that guy on that day. Had I have hit him, there's a good chance that he would have been knocked out. An unconscious body, then slamming into the floor, then the head hits the floor, unprotected, you know, they're not braced. People die like that. It happened while I was working the doors to another doorman just down the road from me. So, you know, avoid violence at all costs, you know. It never ends anywhere good. If I see that guy again, I'm not going to hold a grudge. I'm just going to let it go. I'm not going to engage him in conversation because I know he likes negativity. I should finish the story off, in fact, I suppose. So after I chased him off, he was scared. Once he'd calmed down and realised, you know, he kind of came back into the building, created a big scene, so there was a lot of people, you know, and then he was trying to get a reaction out of me. He was kind of acting scared, you know, to say, oh, look at me, like I'm so hard done by. But people know what he's like, people know what I'm like. You know, people just didn't really take his side, and he's not really been back. But if I see him again, I know you're watching, so I might as well speak to you directly. I forgive you. You know, let's just leave each other alone. Just be kind. From your perspective, you probably think that I'm being out of order. So just understand that we all have perspectives, and our two perspectives don't match, and we just need to leave each other alone. Just, you seem to enjoy unkindness and negativity, and that seems to make you happy, but it doesn't really make you happy. I think you're probably always looking for something that you'll never find. It's just discord. Life is better if you just are kind. So much better. Anyway, that was all a bit random. I didn't know how to get all those words out, so they just come out in a big old jumble there. So sorry everyone. I think that's about all I've got to say. Yeah, see you next time. Peace.